How's it going, guys? Today we are talking about interviews. This is one of the most important parts of documentary filmmaking, and it's one of the things that I see botched most often when people are starting off. I've had the chance to do hundreds of interviews in my lifetime as a documentary director, and there's a lot of things I've learned from doing terrible interviews. But now it's one of my favorite parts of documentary filmmaking. And I would say the first tip you want to be doing when you're doing a documentary is write down your questions and then throw them out. Well, maybe don't throw them out, but put them aside. The biggest mistake I see is people sitting down for an interview with someone and going through a list of questions, staring at a notepad while they're talking to someone. And there's a few reasons why this is a big issue. You might be thinking, well, I need to know my next questions. You should study your questions and have them in your head, but then you need to make eye contact with the person you're talking to. Have you ever spoken to someone who's just on their phone while you're talking to them and they're going, yeah? You don't feel like they care about you. You don't feel like they're engaged with what you're saying. So if you're interviewing someone and they're spilling their guts about their life, or you want them to go to a deep place to help make your film better, then you better be giving them some darn eye contact. You better make them feel like they're a person who's worth your time. And if you're staring at your questions, what you're saying to them subconsciously is what you're saying doesn't matter. And they're not gonna keep talking, and they're not gonna go to a deeper place.
It just feels nice to be loved and be around people that love you and look up to you, want to push you and
So for you as a documentary filmmaker, it is your job to study your own questions and then put them aside. Now you can glance at them every once in a while if you need to refresh yourself with what you're asking, but don't sit there and just go from question to question. It becomes an interview and it doesn't become a conversation. Now for you, you may be cutting your voice out of the film. That's how I do my films. I don't like to put myself in my own documentaries, so my voice is never in it. So I have to give the person eye contact and nod a lot so that they will feel prompted to continue talking. And this is my second point. This is the way I approach interviews. Everyone's different. When I meet a person, I'll do a bit of a pre-interview. I kind of want to know the main plot points of their story, but I don't want to go down the roads of emotion because I want that to be fresh. There is something special about someone saying something for the first time. Sometimes they surprise themselves. So I'll do a pre-interview just to know the basic points of a person's, what they know about the story I'm working on, or perhaps what they felt during an event. But I try not to go too deep in my pre-interviews. It's basically to know, is this person comfortable with me? Can we build a friendship?
Felt like I had to rediscover myself again and find my own identity in Toronto, which was absolutely crazy to me because I grew up here and I felt lost in my own home.
There is a sponsor for today's video. You've heard me mention them before, Storyblocks. Recently, I did a shoot with the FX3, and we only had an hour. There was a snowstorm, and we had to get into this gym before people started arriving, so we were a bit rushed and delayed. So we only had enough time to get in there and shoot like crazy, but I wanted to elevate the project. And what's great about Storyblocks is they have so many different video assets, actually millions, and they're all royalty-free, and you have unlimited downloads, such as these amazing light flares. Now, I'd always rather shoot things in camera, but you don't always have the time. And that's what I really love about Storyblocks, is they have millions of these assets like these light flares that I can throw on top of my footage and help make it look better. So make sure to go check out Storyblocks. I have a link below for their subscription. Again, you get unlimited downloads. It's royalty free. It's a great way to help elevate your filmmaking and know that you have this little tool in your back pocket when you're on set. And my next point is you want to help the person get out of their head. I'm sure you've been here before. You've been doing a video, a corporate video, any sort of video, maybe a small documentary, and the person starts stumbling and getting nervous. It's your job as the director, it's your job for the interviewer to make it not feel like an interview. The camera is a very judgmental thing, that black eye I always call about. It's like the black eye of Sauron from The Lord of the Rings. It stares you down and it makes you intimidated. But what's great is if you're off camera and they're looking at you, you can make them feel at home. home. And how do you do this? Well, the first thing you do is when you get to set, start talking to them. If you just go in and start talking about cameras and lightings and settings, it will feel like a film shoot. You want them to feel like they're meeting a friend, someone who cares about them, someone who wants to talk with them. So don't get in there and get flustered about filming right away. Make them feel like it's a conversation between you and them. This is the thing I always say, no matter what interview. I'm about to go do an interview with one of the largest journalists, reporters in US history. And what I'm gonna tell that person, even though they've done this a lot, is, hey, it's just a conversation between you and I. Let's not worry about the cameras. I know they know that, but just putting that in their head, it makes them feel like me and them are talking together.
It's really weird to feel like you're this issue in society and that the world is divided with how much they should care about you or how much they should.
Another really simple technique, which is just one of the basics, is always get the person to repeat your question in the answer. Right at the beginning of the interview, I tell the person, hey, my voice is gonna be cut out of the film. So if I ask you your name, don't just say Ronald, say my name is Ronald, because then it's a complete sentence, it's a complete thought. While you're listening to the person, you should begin to think about your edit in the back of your head. Is what they said, does that work for the edit? Is it a complete thought? Well, I have to edit that up a bunch of times. And here's my last point, and this is one of the most important things. Don't ask someone to repeat what they said word for word. It suddenly puts pressure on them. And you've probably been there when someone tries to say exactly what they were trying to say before, and then they're thinking about it, and then they get into what I call mumble mode, where they can't even get a real word out. It's terrible. I've been there many times in interviews where I see the person freaking out and having almost a near panic attack because they can't remember the words, and then they're flustered and the whole shoot falls apart. I often tell people, forget about what you just said. Let's do this new. Just forget about what you said. People talk better when they're not trying to say specific lines, when they're talking from the heart. And that's your goal as a filmmaker. You often want to ask people, what did you feel in the scenario? Take yourself back to that moment. What was going through your head? You just ask people factual questions and try to get them to repeat stats or repeat moments. They no longer are talking like a normal person. Get people accessing their emotions. Ask more emotive questions rather than informational questions. What I mean by this is, rather asking what happened, ask them, what were you feeling when this happened? Get people thinking about what happened in their heart and in their mind, and not just what they saw and the facts of the situation. Facts are important, but if you're only doing facts, it doesn't always make a compelling film. You want to bring the human into it.